If you've seen any of my videos, you know that I care about gay people and transgender people, anybody along the LGBTQIA plus spectrum. I am I am not gay. I'm not transgender, but I care, and I want to tell you why. I'm going somewhere with this. When I was a child, I was one of those kids that my teacher noticed something, a mark on me, and had me go into the principal's office with her, and I closed the door and raised lifted my shirt up and saw the damage that my dad had done. They were shocked. They called the Department of Human Services. I forget what they were called back in the 60s. I'm 62 now. Anyway, when they came to my house, that really it didn't make it any better. As a result of that treatment from the age of 4 until I was 12, when my parents got divorced, I was terrified almost continuously. Occasionally, I would forget, and then I was surprised. And my brother and sister went through the same thing. And then, as a result of that, I have complex PTSD, CPTSD, they'll say, and sometimes, and that generally doesn't go away. And as a result of that heavy stress, chronic stress for decades, I'm lucky to be alive. I have either of the physical ailments caused by chronic stress or damage done by my own hand. It's been bad. Nonetheless, I want to tell you something. I want to tell you something. When I was in high school, when I was a senior in high school, the situation had not gotten any better. My dad was still alive, even though he wasn't in our lives. He was in them enough, and he was still alive, and the situation had not gotten any better. I lived with my mom and my brother by then, and I was supporting the family. I had the only job in the house. I worked nights in a factory. I was a senior in high school. I had 3 classes, and that I had to in high and as a senior, and I had 2 study halls because that it was a miracle. I felt bad for me. I felt I slept during the study halls in the library, and I because I wasn't getting very much sleep at night and going to school during the day. I had a I had I had a business math class. I couldn't do the homework. I was a straight A student, but I couldn't do the homework. And I told the high school counselor, I said, I'm going to quit school. I can't, I can't quit the factory. I can't quit the job. And she spoke to the principal. They allowed me something that they didn't allow other people. They allowed me to have 3 study halls and only 2 classes. I had more study hall time in the library than I had study time in classes, and they allowed that, fortunately. One time they called me into the guidance counselor's office again and said, "We know you're living outside the school district." And I thought it was over for me. You see, I lived in my grandma's house, which was empty, but I lived there because it was right down the street from the factory that I worked at. I didn't have a car. Nobody had a car in the family. I I had to live outside the school district. A friend of mine was picking me up every day. I don't know how they found out. And I thought it was over. And she said, but, she said, I spoke to the principal, and we've spoken to the superintendent of schools. And I thought, oh, crap. And she said, and we're not going to say anything. We're going to let this go because we know what you're doing. We know why it is. We're going to let this go. And I got called into the guidance counselor's office again. But this time she said, I just want you to know that because I was a senior, she says, and it's like I said, we made really good grades. And she said, I just want you to know that you have enough credit to pass the senior grade. You, even if you quit now, you would pass and get a diploma. And I was like, so grateful. And she did this sort of thing so that I would know that it's going to be okay. That's why they let me know about the school district thing with her and a principal and the superintendent of schools. She didn't want me to worry about that. She knew I was, and she didn't want me to worry about that. When I graduated, by the time I graduated, I had already joined the Air Force, the military. and I got in, and it again, it didn't get any better. I was sending my checks home, except for a little money for alcohol, because I and a movie every once in a while, because I had the only job in the house. I needed my brother. My brother and my mom were my dependents, but I couldn't get military medical coverage for them because I did everything. I had the receipts and everything. I'd submitted and I'd gone in several times to get it done, and it just wasn't getting done. I had been in for 2.5 years when I got called over to the basically the HR department of the military. It was personnel or something like that. And I came in and I said I'd gotten a call from so and so. It wasn't him, but it was his um, administrative assistant or something like that. And they were a little shocked when I said the guy's name, because he was in charge of personnel at the base. And I thought, oh, I didn't, I had no idea. So I waited, and then I got called in, and he had me close the door again, and it was like he was a major or a colonel or something, like probably a colonel, and he said, "Mr. Sergeant May," he says, I I was an airman then, I was not a sergeant yet. He said, I've been looking at your records. Somebody noticed something and just brought it to my attention, and I thought I still didn't know, and he wasn't letting on until then, and he said, I am I am shocked that we haven't taken care of this. Your brother and your mother are clearly your dependents. You are to be commended for taking care of them. You must have been sending most of your money home. I said, "Yeah, yes, sir." And he said, they are your dependents from now on. He said, officially, legally, they will have cards. They can go and get military cards made, and they will have military care, health care at the hospital. They can shop. I was amazed. I was like, oh my god, so much. So, and I life got better. Okay, because I was working hard, and I went out and I lived life. I almost got killed 3 different times. It's a different story. Due to the CPSD, I almost did myself fatal harm. And now I just, not to fatal due to fatal harm, but my due to that and this chronic stress, I have some situations, and I another video again. Nonetheless, what I want you to, and now, because I got out and got a job, and I worked 19 years this job, I got another job in software business, which pays an amazing amount of money. And I'm 62. I'm getting close to retirement, and it's life's hard. Life's still hard, but made it. I made it, and it all started with that guidance counselor. Actually, started with my teacher and the principal, and then the guidance counselor. People telling me, "This is okay. You're not alone." I know it's hard, and they didn't tell me that it's probably not going to get better, but but that it started there with them saying, "It's okay. Somebody is here for you." In the midst of this Trump economy, this Trump administration, and the Nazis who are trying to take you down, I am here for you, and I am not alone. And there are many of us out here who will, if you were being chased by an ICE agent, and you were an alien, a Hispanic person, a black person, a female, a gay person, transgender person, chased for any reason, you're welcome here. You're welcome here. You guys, gay people, transgender people, LGBTQIA plus, females, black people, Hispanic people, any alien, anybody that these Nazis are marginalizing, you're welcome here. You got a friend. I care. We care. Count on it.